Yeah, so the zooxanthellae takes in carbon dioxide and they process it through photosynthesis, providing oxygen for the corals and other important nutrients needed for their growth. So this mechanism is just like a common mechanism in all symbiotic relationship between photosynthetic organisms and other animals. So the photosynthetic organism, like an algae, provide food, and then the animal provide like a housing for the algae. Like in this context, we call it a symbiotic relationship. And like I said earlier, don't forget, corals are not plants, they are invertebrate animals. So moving on, we are going to look at the different types of coral reefs. We have the barrier reefs. They are mostly found close to coastal areas, but not very, very close to coastal areas. They can extend to a particular depth. They are not found in very deep depths, but they can extend to some certain amount of depth, like 11 meters to 40 meters within light penetration. An example of the Great Barrier Reef is the northeast coast of Australia. I'm sorry, an example of barrier reef is the Great Barrier Reef found at the northeast coast of Australia. So another type of coral reef is the fringing reef. This forms along the coast, like fringing reefs are found more along the coast than barrier reefs. And they are the most common type of reefs. Being that they are the most common types, they actually serve more ecosystem services to dependent communities, like coastal communities that live close to this coral reef habitats. An example of a fringing reef is the Ningalo Reef in Western Australia. Then moving to the third type of coral reef, we have an atoll. Atolls are reefs that develop with underwater volcanoes called seamounts. They are usually ring-shaped coral reefs, and they kind of form an island. they surround islands. One example of this kind of reef is the Christmas Atoll, found in West Central Pacific. And if you remember, I mentioned that these two particular categories of reefs are found close to the coastal areas, and they are mostly found close to the shore. And the reason why they are found close to the shore is because of the photosynthesizing organism they have in them, which is the algae. And we know algae need light to produce, to grow, and this algae produce food for the corals. So they have to stay in shallow areas where they can receive sunlight to carry out photosynthetic activities. To give you more insight on the biodiversity present in coral ecosystem, I'm going to play you a short video. It's just about 3 minutes.
Eh bien, je pensais pas avoir besoin de Swiffer, jusqu'à ce que je vois avec quelle facilité il attrape mes cheveux dès que je les sèche. Ça me prend même pas 1 minute. Des lingettes 3D super épaisses attrapent et retiennent de façon incroyable, même sa poêle. Waouh! Et pour la poussière, j'adore le Wibowo 3D. Il attrape la poussière dans les moindres recoins. Je suis ça change du ménage. Coral reefs. Their bright, vivid colors can be seen in tropical ocean waters around the globe. Beyond their brilliant appearance lies a hidden significance. Coral are animals. Though they may look like colorful plants, coral are in fact made up of tiny animals called polyps. These invertebrates can range from the size of a pinhead to a bit larger than a basketball. Each polyp consists of a soft sac-like body topped by a mouth covered in stinging tentacles. To protect their soft bodies and add support, the polyps secrete limestone skeletons or calicles. Corals are megabuilders. Polyp calicles connect to one another, creating a colony that acts as a single organism. As colonies grow over hundreds and thousands of years, they join with other colonies and become reefs that can grow to hundreds of miles long. The largest coral reef is Australia's Great Barrier Reef, which began growing about 20,000 years ago. Coral reefs are some of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. though they cover less than 1% of the ocean floor. Coral reefs are home to 25% of all marine creatures. It's been estimated that up to 2 million species inhabit coral reefs, rivaling the biodiversity of the rainforest. The reefs provide rich habitat that helps protect young fish as they grow. Coral are translucent. Coral reefs get their rainbow of colors from algae or zooxanthellae that live in their tissue. Though corals use their tentacles to capture some food, most of their food comes from the algae they house. When coral becomes stressed by pollution or other factors, they evict their algae. Coral bleaching results, revealing corals' white skeletons. Coral provide a window to the past. As coral grow, their limestone skeletons form layers, similar to tree rings, that vary in composition and thickness based on ocean conditions at the time. With some coral reefs growing for thousands or even millions of years, scientists can study these layers to reveal what the Earth's climate may have been like in the ancient past. Unfortunately, climate change is putting corals' future in danger, along with the millions of species that inhabit the reefs and the 500 million people that rely on reef fish for food. Warming waters result in prolonged coral bleaching that kill coral reefs or leave them vulnerable to other threats. Without significant action on climate change, our oceans could lose many of their colorful reefs by the end of the century.
Yeah, so thank you very much for following that. Just a minute.
All right, we need an ad from Quillbot that really shows how.
Can everybody see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can see us.
Okay, so having shown us the different biodiversity, the beautiful things that can be found in the coral ecosystem, we are now going to look at the effect of ocean acidification on these corals. And to do that, I would invite our guest speaker in person of Michelia Wibowo to give us insight as to what is happening in this ecosystem and how we can actually support or promote the growth of the system and prevent them from being affected by climate change and other factors that are going on currently. So Michelia is a junior researcher at Okinawa Institute in Japan, meaning she's actually 8 hours ahead of us right now. She was also a research intern at Bermuda Institute of Ocean Science at Bermuda. And our research interest is centered around remote sensing, the use of GIS and mathematical modeling, biological oceanography, and coral reef ecology. And just to add, she just graduated from the Erasmus Mundus Master's Program in Marine Environment Resources. She's very intelligent and smart, and I want you to look forward to listening to her. I'm sure you're going to enjoy today's session. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and Michelia, you can take over from here. Thank you.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for Aqua World for inviting me and giving me this chance. I'm really honored to be here, and thank you for everyone to be here. And also for Kemi for giving the brief introduction about coral reef. So I hope everybody here now kind of get the picture what coral reef is. So I'll talk more about the ocean acidification and the future of coral reef, also what we can do about it. Sorry, yeah. So to begin with, I want to remind you that in the last 60 years, we can see that our nature has a huge transformation in human history. So since 1950s, the human population has tripled. And of course, this will affect on the water use. It has been increasing from around 1,800 cubic kilometers per year. Now it's 5,800. And not just for waterways, the most important thing is it's also affecting the motor vehicle. Like for example, back like 60 years ago, it was just like 30 million vehicles on the road, but right now it's 750, which is a huge increase. And don't forget about the international tourism as well. And so all of this has a huge acceleration in the use of earth resources. And this kind of human activities release carbon dioxide. And when carbon dioxide is released, around 30 to 40% is taken up by the ocean. The rest could be remain at the atmosphere, or it can be absorbed by the land. This will cause the ocean, which is alkaline, become more acidic over time. We need to remember that as a human, we are connected to our ocean, and our ocean regulates the climate just like our heart regulates our body. So in conclusion, what ocean acidification is, it is the reduction in the pH or power of hydrogen of the ocean over extended period of time. This is primarily caused by uptake of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So since the beginning of the industrial era, the overall pH of world ocean was 8.2, and then it was decreased to 8.1 after the Industrial Revolution. And for now, it is 30% more acidic than it was before the Industrial Revolution. This acidification, it is faster than the past mass extinction that the Earth has experienced before. So our planet has been through 5 times extinction in the last 500 years. And through all of this, coral has been the first to go down. So, yes, thank you very much for the brief explanation, Kemi, about coral. So yeah, coral is a very important animal. Although coral is only 1% covering the seafloor, but they are home to one of the third all species in the ocean. So it's like 30% species can be found in coral reef environment. So they are the most biologically diverse natural communities in the planet, and they are corals are found all over the ocean, from the Aleutian Islands, from the Alaska, and the warm tropical islands in the Caribbean Sea. So coral reefs are large underwater structures composed by the skeletons of colonial marine invertebrates called coral. So so again, I want to thank Kemi for giving me the pre-lecture in the beginning. So I will not go really into detail about what coral reef is, but what I want to tell you, and it is important to know, is coral reef could really be dissolving if the ocean acidification continues to happen. And as for now, 50% of the world's coral reef has already gone, and scientists predicted that the corals could be dissolved, could be wiped out in 2050. And we don't want that to happen. So this is really concerning, remembering that coral reef has a lot of importance, such as protecting the coastlines against the extreme weather condition by reducing the impact of land erosion in coastal areas. It is also provides habitat for marine organisms, and it's also giving a food source and a new medicine, especially for the people in the island. They are really depending on coral reef. So furthermore, the effect of ocean acidification itself, it can go beyond from coral reef. It can also affect fish to build skeleton and also affect plankton. Plankton is another thing to think about, that it's really important because it is the base of the foundation of the marine food web, meaning that all the fish basically eat plankton. So they are really important, and phytoplankton also provides us with oxygen. So with the fact that plankton has been destroyed, around 40% destroyed by the combination of ocean acidification and ocean warming, this is really concerning. Okay, yeah. So, well, currently, the coral reef face double threats from rising atmosphere, carbon dioxide. So, first one is as from the severe heat stress. It causes bleaching, which is the explosion of corals' food-producing algae, which is the zooxanthellae that Kemi already mentioned. And then from the ocean acidification, it reduced availability of calcium minerals for skeleton building and repair. So what really happened is the ocean acidification is reduced the calcium carbonates in the seawater. So some of the carbonate ions, so it's normally pairs with calcium to form calcium carbonate. But when ocean acidification happens, it will pairs with hydrogen instead. And this will create bicarbonate. And with then it will be less calcium carbonate in the seawater. And this is dangerous because coral find it hard to rebuild and regrow their skeletons. And this can increase the death of corals. So what can we do to help the ocean acidification? Before getting to that, I want to let you know that we cannot really stop the ocean acidification entirely, but we can help. We can do our best to mitigate the impacts and to protect those who are affected. So these are some general things that I recommend us to do. So the first one is to reduce our carbon footprint. This is for us as an individuals that we can do. So it can be from buying sustainable products. And to be more specific about marine related, I would recommend for buying sustainable seafood, or if you are looking at if you're buying seafood products, make sure that you do some research that the product is being produced sustainably, if it's aquaculture or if it's from the ocean. And second is to support initiatives and policy to reduce the carbon emission. So for example, it's also good to be updated with the news around the world for how different countries are creating initiatives in tackling the climate crisis. So for example, what just happened, I think last week, was the COP27 in Egypt, and last year it was in Glasgow in the UK. So it's really nice to be updated about what happens around the world, and it will also give us knowledge and perhaps give this information to your colleagues, to your friends. And the last one is also we can harness society through research and conservation to raise the awareness although this statement is more for a researcher, if you're not a researcher, or if you don't have the background academic in marine science or climate science or anything related to that, you can also support it by donating to conservation who acts on tackling climate change. Like, for example, there are so many things that we can do. We can also do volunteer for many activities such as coral replantation or beach cleanup. There are so many things to do. And so since I mentioned about reducing footprint individually, I want to elaborate more about it. What can we do else? So what is good to do is also to use our foot to walk and to bike instead of using cars. It's also good to use public transportation as it will reduce the carbon emission. Then it will also indirectly help to reduce ocean acidification. Also to eat locally, to buy from a local market instead of buying from imported from another country, for example, because shipping from another country to your country will also cost not just money. So the imported products is not just more expensive, but it will also cost the nature the carbon emissions. So when you buy something from your local fisherman or from your local market, it can also really help your our environment. And the last one is to thrifting or shop sustainable to avoid fast fashion. And yeah, basically buying something from second-handed to make the loop longer. So we will also help the nature by buying clothes from thrift shops. So that's all, I think. So thank you very much for listening. If you have any question, please ask. If you have anything unclear also, please ask. Thank you. I'll give it back to you, Kemi.
Thank you, Michelle, for that wonderful presentation and insight as to what is going on, the effect of ocean acidification, and how we can actually do what we can actually do in our own little ways to prevent and reduce ocean acidification from greenhouse gas emission. So to our audience at this point, would like you to ask any question. If you have a question regards to discussion, let us know so we can answer to the best of our knowledge. Okay, we have one question. Omo Bolanle, please go ahead. You can unmute your mic and ask your question.
All right. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really had a nice time. This is actually my first time joining the program. Yeah, and I'm just so curious, like following the whole program, like what actually is the cause for this ocean acidification, since that's the main cause affecting the coral reef. So I'm just so curious. Sorry, I'm not a marine person, just wondering what is the cause and how best can we also prevent the ocean acidification.
What's sorry, just so that I understand it clearly, what is the cause of our ocean acidification and how to prevent it? So okay, so the ocean acidification is when the ocean turn into acid. So you know when the so water is basically alkaline, and when there is acid introduced to the ocean by absorbing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, this will make the ocean more acidic. And when it is acid, then there's a lot of marine organisms that cannot survive in the ocean. So one of the organisms that I mentioned that is really important is coral reef. Also, it's not just coral reef that's affected. There's a lot of things affected, like fishes and whales, sharks, and everything. But coral reef is one of the one that is affected because it is important, an important environment. So how to prevent it? So like what I mentioned in my presentation is to simply cut our carbon footprint. So in order to cut the carbon dioxide being absorbed by the ocean, we should cut the carbon that we emitted. So carbon comes from it can come from your vehicle, like when you drive a car. So there's carbon coming out. So that's why, like, I recommended using more public transportation, or by walking, or by biking. So this kind of simple things that we can do individually can actually help the environment, because it will help us to not create more carbon emission. Therefore, when there's no carbon emission, there will not be carbon dioxide absorbed by the ocean, and then we kind of help the ocean acidification to be not happening as bad as it is. I don't know if that really answers your question. I please let me know if you understand.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think we have another question in the chat box. Okay, someone is asking, what is the fate of our coral reefs and the organisms that depend on them in the next 10 years?
Sorry, what is the...
Is asking for the fate of our coral reefs
Okay,
and the organisms that depend on them in the next 10 years.
so in the next 10 years, so the scientist has been predicting that if the ocean acidification keeps happening, it will be bad for the corals, because they will not be able to reproduce, they will not be able to survive, because when it's acid, there will not be a lot of calcium carbonate that the corals need. So the worst case is, in 10 years it will be reduced to, I don't know how many %, but there's an article saying that they predicted it by 2050 all the coral can be gone if we keep doing this lifestyle. So in the next 10 years, obviously, if we keep doing what we do right now, if we are not helping to cut the carbon emission, obviously corals will be gone. It will be decreased. I don't know how many %, I don't know who will survive, and how is the statistic, but for sure it will be gone if we didn't do anything.
Yeah. And then to add to what she said, there's a report by IPCC that predicted that if acidification is not controlled, particularly in the tropics, there's going to be upward shift of corals to higher latitudes.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm not really I haven't really done a lot of research about it, but yes, it could also happen, because that's what usually what the organism are doing. They're adapting to their environment. So of course, when there is a change, they also change their behavior, how they live, perhaps where they live. So it could happen when the coral change to the latitudes. It can also happen for fish to change, like their
already
direction.
happening.
Sorry?
I said it's already happening for fish, like they're shifting.
Yes, it's already happening for fish. So yes, for coral, it's also possible for them.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's another question. Can dead or bleached coral reefs be saved or regenerated?
So by our own, like by human capacity, for now, usually it's not possible. What the scientists usually do is save them when the conservationists see that the coral is already bleaching, and usually when they bleach, it takes time. It doesn't bleach the whole thing at 1 second. So when they see that, oh, this corals is dying but not completely died, they take like a fragment of the coral and they do replantation, like they put it in the environment that is better. Perhaps it can be in aquarium, or it can be in the ocean, but like in different area that they find that it's suitable for them, and then they regrow them. They make reproduction by humans, not by nature. So that's what usually what the conservationists are doing.
Thank you. Okay, I think there's a last question. Said, can't there be measures to reduce the various causes of ocean acidification? I think we've answered that. Like regulations from the various bodies in charge of each large marine ecosystems.
So, well, by the current COP meeting, it's like it's the event by the United Nations to gather countries and to discuss about what mitigation they do. So basically, all these countries have different capacity. Like perhaps a richer country can do more contribution in by money, or other countries can do contribution by cutting their gas emission from the vehicle, for example. So I'm not sure about the measurement, but what they are doing right now in the COP, in the COP, is trying to reduce the temperature by 1.5 Celsius. So that's kind of the measurement to tackle the climate change and also the ocean acidification.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I think we don't have any other. Okay, I think is stating that his question was not completely answered. So he's saying, I get that the future damages can be avoided. But I meant to ask, can the already damages be fixed?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like completely dead coral. For what I know, it's not possible by humans, but in some rare cases, if they are like it's by the nature. So it happens like long time ago. So coral has experienced mass extinction, but like hundreds years ago. When they are gone, when the nature's already back to normal, or like being better again, they can pop out, like no, not pop out, like they can come back to appear. But for like humans efforts to help completely dead coral to be alive again, I don't know if there's such technology, perhaps in the future, but I don't know for now.
Yeah, thank you. And I don't know so much about this, but I know that when they bleach, sometimes it's not all of the stock that bleaches. It's a part of it. And yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when coral when the conservation is doing coral transplantation, they see that there's still a little bit of coral that's still alive, and they cut it, they take it, and they reproduce it. So that's how we save it. But when it's completely damaged, like the question from Samuel, like when it's completely dead, I'm not sure if there is a technology to recover the completely dead coral. Maybe by the nature it can be, but like by human technology, I'm not sure if there is such technology to fix the damage.
Okay. So I think that is all for now. I don't think we'll be taking any question again. Like I said earlier, our speaker is 8 hours ahead of us, and she's literally in midnight right now. So we have to like let her go. Yeah. But then, Michelle, we really appreciate you coming around to enlighten us on coral reefs and ocean acidification. We're
Thank you
very
so
much
much.
privileged to have you, and thank you so much for coming around. And thank you to all the participants who came around this evening to also join us. You are well appreciated. Just to remind you, this virtual seminar comes up every month, once every month, and we'll be expecting you to join us next month on a different topic, so around the aquatic ecosystem. So hope to see you next time. Once again, thanks for coming. And before I go, the founder of the organization in person of Ayomide Paul, I don't know if it's still, sorry, Mr. Ayomide Paul, I don't know if it's still on the call. Let me just quickly check. Yeah, so I don't think it's on the call, but at this point, we'll bring the meeting to a close and see you next time, next month. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting.